Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Fast am I. Good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Thursday, December 7th, 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to that news and sport, business, Sea-Watch, travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, the fatal air crash was likely deliberate. Scallop Management Board have restricted vessels off the south coast. Laxey Beach is in better shape to combat coastal overtopping, challenging how we think about dementia, and boxer Jade Burden's professional licence perhaps later this month.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Fast am I, Christian Jones.
Fast am I. A report by the Air Accidents Investigation Branch into a fatal plane crash in the south of the island earlier this year has found the incident is likely to have been deliberate. The investigation found no evidence of any technical faults that would have caused the collision at Bradderhead in July. HSBC's announced changes to its operations, which has put almost 30 Manx jobs at risk. The bank is merging 2 expat customer support teams together, which will be run off-island. And the island schools will soon be subject to new Ofsted adapted guidelines as part of efforts to encourage continual improvement within classrooms. Educators and the government have been in discussion for the past 18 months, with the first set of independent validators expected in Manx schools in July. In international news, Russian officials are describing UK allegations that Moscow's been using cyber attacks on emails to try and interfere in British politics as unfounded. The Foreign Office in London alleges there were attempts made to access the personal and business communications of well-known MPs, lords, civil servants and even journalists. Boris Johnson says he did all he could to stop parties at Downing Street during lockdown, but he did admit to the COVID inquiry he could have told staff to be mindful of the rules, and it's emerged during a separate legal case that storing PPE is costing the UK taxpayer £3.2 million a year. The supplies were bought by the UK government during the pandemic. Those are the Update News headlines. Next at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on powers of attorney and more. Manx Radio weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, Christian. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, the word is strong to gale force winds as a warning in the North Irish Sea. State of sea rough, becoming moderate. And the weather this evening on the Isle of Man, the rain will clear away as that strong wind veers southerly and eases back. Then some clear intervals after dark. Showers overnight and minimum 7 degrees. Portchahenya, Friday, cloudy with scattered showers at a fresh to strong south-southwesterly, up to 11 degrees tomorrow, down to 8 through the night. Into Saturday, start of the weekend, rain first thing, clearing to sunny intervals, isolated breezy showers, top temperature of 11 degrees. Tides on the way back in, high water 3 minutes past 7 tonight, low tide 17 minutes before 2 a.m, high water 2 minutes past 8 tomorrow morning, and sunrise 23 minutes past 8.
Manx Glass and Glazing are able to offer an emergency out-of-hours boarding up service. Call 491918.
The Manxman's going tonight. By the way, there are no delays at Ronaldsway Airport, and we've still got that yellow weather warning for heavy rain. A report by the Air Accidents Investigation Branch into a fatal plane crash in the south of the Isle of Man earlier this year has found the incident is likely to have been deliberate. The investigation has found no evidence of any technical faults that would have caused the collision at Bradderhead on the 17th of July. The story from Sean Cowper.
The AAIB's findings show the 64-year-old pilot arrived at Ronaldsway on the morning of the crash before taking off from the airport at 11:30 a.m. Data and witnesses report the Cessna aircraft followed a relatively constant rate of descent before striking the cliff face shortly before midday. CCTV in Port Erin also suggested the flight was under control before the collision. Investigations revealed the pilot had been suffering from sleep issues and anxiety ahead of the incident and had been prescribed medication to alleviate the symptoms. The report states he had not declared these difficulties to his aeromedical examiner, and several phone calls made during the flight indicated the pilot did not intend to return from the flight. Examination of the wreckage confirmed there was no evidence of pre-impact failure in the flying control cables. All major components were present, the engine contained oil, and there was a significant amount of fuel present. As a result, the AAIB concludes it is likely the accident was a deliberate act. The coroner of inquests opened and adjourned proceedings into the death of 64-year-old Carl Bettany following the incident.
It may not seem like it, but the weather is getting better. There's plenty of travel disruption across the Isle of Man today. That yellow weather warning in place for much of the day. Siobhan has that detail.
Ronaldsway Met Office issued a yellow weather warning for heavy rain early this morning, which came into force at 10 a.m. and remained in place until 4. Outbreaks of rain turned heavy and persistent from mid-morning, widely giving 10 to 20 millimetres across the island. We were warned it could lead to difficult driving conditions with areas of standing water, as well as a risk of localised flooding. It impacted several services, including the Northern Civic Amenity site, which was promptly closed due to the weather. Travel off the island was also up in the air first thing, as the morning's Manxman sailing was cancelled. It meant the return leg due to leave Heysham at 2:15 p.m. was also dropped. Then came the message from the Isle of Man Post Office that mail delivery would inevitably be impacted. They said inbound mail which arrived yesterday evening would be processed for delivery as normal, but there would be no inbound mail this evening, so any that was due to arrive would have to be brought on the next available sailing. Elsewhere, Ronaldsway Airport faced its own disruption early on as the airfield was closed until 9:05 a.m. It was due to unexpected sickness affecting the air traffic control team there.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
A restricted area off the south of the Isle of Man has been closed to fishing vessels by the Scallop Management Board. The decision's been made at the request of the fishing industry. Simon Richardson with that story.
The Bradder restricted area covers around 12 square kilometres, and fishing vessels were only allowed to catch scallops in the zone for 1 day per week. Dr David Beard of the Isle of Man Fish Producers Organisation told Manx Radio the time restrictions were imposed because the area has a high density of juvenile scallops. Catch rates since the area was opened have been extremely high, with all local vessels taking advantage of the permitted 1 day a week fishing time. As a result, it was felt the area needed time to recover after a period of intensive fishing. Dr Beard says the Bradder restricted area will reopen sometime in the new year, probably in March. The King and Queen scallop fisheries have enjoyed bumper catches this year in terms of both quantity and quality. It follows the rigorous enforcement in recent years of strict conservation measures aimed at securing the fishery for years to come.
Later this month, Manx boxer Jade Burden is expected to get her licence to become the Isle of Man's first ever professional female boxer. The Grenade has told Manx Radio what it'll mean for her and what it could mean for the sport as a whole on the island.
Oh, it's massive. I don't do things by halves. Once I'm in, I'm in. So yeah, I'm really hungry. I'm driven. I can't wait. And to be honest with you, I think the pro style is more suited to me. So yeah, I don't think I've ever won a first round, to be honest. So when I know I've got 10 rounds, there's obviously a few more rounds to be picked up then. But no, I'm just really excited for what opportunities may come. Yeah, and I'm ready to take them with both hands. I think it's just going to be a learning experience to start off with. Obviously, there's like a massive, stylistically, there's a big change going from amateurs to pro. I was at elite level in boxing, so I was doing like 3-minute rounds. I'm going to go back down to 2. So it's all about kind of pacing it out. But yeah, I think as well, just the beginning, obviously, I'm going to have to base myself here. I'm going to be training at the same gym as Jamie in Liverpool, so there will be travel each week. But look, you've got to take these opportunities. If you don't, then you'll never know what happens at the end of it. So yeah, I'm all in. I think it's a good time to get into it now because it's thriving. There's so many opportunities for women in professional boxing now, and obviously if you play your cards right and take the opportunities, it could, it's obviously like a chance to change your life as well, and also put the Isle of Man on the map as well, just to show that we do have some good boxers over here and what we're doing is right. So yeah, it's massive. So hopefully, it's 2023 coming up to 2024. It's mad to think that no female from the island has done it yet, but it just kind of shows where we're at, doesn't it? And then hopefully in a couple of years to come, it gives another young female obviously the chance to do it and know that they can do it. So I think it was 2 weeks ago now, I got invited over to the interview, and then I got told on the day that I will be granted my license once they meet again in a couple of weeks' time. And then after that, I've just got to obviously get the medical done, which I'll have just before Christmas, and then we can move forward.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
So the 8:45 this morning, Manxman didn't go to Heysham, consequently didn't come back. She's in Douglas Harbour now. Will be departing this evening at 7:45, arriving in Heysham at about 11:30. The 02:15 departure for Manxman gets back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning, and tomorrow morning's departure is 8:45 Manxman to Heysham.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
Stones have been removed from Laxey Beach by the Department of Infrastructure to help lessen coastal overtopping in the village. Garth Commissioner Melanie Christian says the local authority has been lobbying the government to do beach management for a long time.
Well, we obviously had Storm Debbie a few weeks ago, and as a result of that, a lot of the stones moved completely away from the north end of the beach to the point where you walk down the steps and literally there was a big gap stepping onto the beach as a result of the storm. So local residents then reported that when the waves hit the wall, it's because of the void and the lack of stones, it's compromising the strength of the wall. So the DOI have now decided to move the stones from the south end of Laxey Beach up to the north end to try and protect the wall and the road underneath. As my understanding, it was the DOI who decided to do that because it's a little bit of a grey area. The commissioners own the beach, but the DOI own the wall and the road. So it's just making sure the integrity of that wall is kept safe. It is linked to it because obviously the commissioners welcome the department's initiative to look forward to seeing if it's successful in moving these stones and protecting the wall. Local residents do report that when the stones weren't there was a big vibration against the wall and that they felt their properties were actually shaking from the waves. So having the stones there sort of lessens the energy from the waves and eases the vibration. So we obviously want to work with the DOI in limiting that, but it definitely does seem there needs to be something done in that area long term. I think it's just everyone's really observation. I think particularly after Storm Debbie, I walked down the beach myself a few days later and noticed that a lot of the stones had moved. Residents then reported about this vibration against the wall, and there was also a feeling that when the stones aren't there, more debris, it does appear to be thrown up onto the road after sort of high tides and bad weather.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 18 minutes before 6, Games Workshop, the Nottingham-based manufacturer of miniature war games, announced today that its staff are set to receive a nice Christmas bonus, as it said trading since the last update in September has been in line with expectations. Games Workshop said it expects pre-tax profit no less than £94 million compared with £83.6 million last year. Under its profit share scheme, the company pays £2,500 in cash to each employee in December for their contribution to its performance. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. McDonald's has announced the details of its new retro-style restaurant idea. It's going to be called CosMCs or Cosmux, which will operate like Starbucks and Costa Coffee. A pilot focusing on hot and cold specialty drinks is due to open in Bolingbrook in Illinois, near the fast food's giant headquarters later this week, and 10 more opening in Texas next year. McDee's plans to open another 10,000 sites globally by 2027, many of them in China. The expansion will boost the number of its stores to about 50,000. The new Cosmux will serve people with a sweet tooth, selling items such as the Churro Frappe, that Spanish donut, and S'mores Cold Brew. S'mores are biscuits, chocolates and marshmallows. There'll also be a small number of McDonald's staple food items on the menu, like Egg McMuffin. The concept is McDonald's latest effort to try and crack the lucrative coffee market, especially in America, where 6 out of 10 people drink at least 1 cup every day.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European markets slipped, reversing gains seen in previous trading sessions. The yen staged its biggest one-day rally in almost a year. Oil reclaimed some ground and gold edged higher. The numbers from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 fractionally down 0.02%, 7,513. The DAX in Frankfurt down 0.1% at the close at 16,637. And a short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial fractionally down again 0.02%, 36,048. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index in New York up a percentage point at 14,287. In the Midwest in Chicago, the S&P 500 up 0.5% at 4,574. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 US, 25.6 cents, and €1, 16.8 1.5 cents. In commodities, gold's up just over 0.1% at $2,027 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 0.1% at $74.17.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
A Douglas man has been remanded to the Isle of Man prison after being accused of carrying out a number of serious sexual offences at Douglas Court. For Manx Radio, Tessa Hawley.
John Paul Fail of Princes Avenue appeared at Douglas Courthouse today. The 30-year-old is currently being held in custody at the Derby facility and made his appearance in the summary court via live video link from there. He's been charged with raping a woman and the attempted rape of a woman between the 23rd and 26th of November. Those offences can only be tried at the Court of General Jail Delivery. Mr. Fail has also been charged with 3 counts of indecently assaulting the same complainant between the same dates. Not guilty pleas were entered to those charges, which allegedly took place at his home address. A charge of displaying controlling or coercive behaviour, again towards the same woman, between the 6th and 29th of November was also denied. Mr. Fail will stand trial at the Court of General Jail Delivery. Committal proceedings, where the case is elevated to that court, will take place on the 23rd of January. There was no application for bail and he was remanded until his next court appearance on the 4th of January next year.
Manx Radio Sport.
Faster My, Rob Pritchard.
Faster My, good evening. Starting with motorsport, and entries have now opened for the 2024 Isle of Man TT races. Riders and teams are now being invited to register to participate in the 103rd edition of the Snaefell Mountain Course event, taking place next year from the 27th of May to the 8th of June. Next year will again involve a 10-race programme, first brought in 2023, beginning on the 27th of May with free practice and first qualifying, and concluding with the Senior TT on Saturday the 8th of June. The Senior TT and Superbike TT will provide competition for the Superbike machines, whilst there's 2 races apiece across the schedule for the Superstock, Super Sport, Super Twin and Sidecar classes. In hockey, Sienna Dunn and England under-21 squad now know who they'll face in the semi-finals of the 2023 Junior Women's World Cup. They'll take on the Netherlands in the last 4 tomorrow. It'll get underway from 6:15pm local time and 9:15pm UK time. It comes after England booked their place in the last 4 with a hard-fought 1-0 win over Germany yesterday afternoon. Former Valkyries player Dunn has featured in all 4 matches for England so far, which has also included group stage wins over New Zealand and the USA up to now. In football, the Isle of Man FA has confirmed the appointment of a new independent non-executive director to its board. Vicky Hotchkiss takes up the post and comes in with a background in the financial services industry. Her responsibilities will include playing a leading role in the association's diversity, equality and inclusion ambitions. And elsewhere in football, an update on changes to some of FC Isle of Man's fixtures in March. The club has confirmed their rescheduled away tie against Charnock Richard will now take place on Wednesday the 13th of March at 7:45pm at Mossy Park. Another tie has also been altered 7 days later. The Ravens' previously postponed match at Earlham will now be held at the RG3 Digital Stadium on Wednesday the 20th of March, also at 7:45.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway. Next, it's the 7:30 EasyJet from London Gatwick, the 5 to 8 Loganair from Liverpool, returning patient transfer plane, and then the 8 o'clock Loganair from London City. They're all showing on time. Outbound, 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool, and the 8 o'clock return EasyJet to London Gatwick. On the roads, temporary lights on the main road, you guessed it, at Colby, the junction with Ballakill Ferrick Road for water main work. In Port St Mary, temporary lights the bottom end of Beach Road for sewer lining work. In Sulby, the Clanner Road's closed for resurfacing, and Douglas has still got Hillside Avenue closed through to Circular Road for adjacent office window replacement, and a section of Switzerland Road closed to November next year for construction work. Temporary lights on Bradden Road between the hospital and Strang Road. They're working on the pavements. The Kean Drockard Road in Andreas closed in phases for water main work. Temporary lights on the Andreas Road, St Jude's to the north of St Jude's for patching work. And also temporary lights on the Dolby Road between Erie Cushlin and the Round Table for drainage work. The Aracy Road is closed from Glen May to the Shoulder Road for resurfacing. And south of Kirkmichael, closures on the Ballalai Road for water main work.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Quayside. The team at a Manx legal company is challenging misconceptions about dementia. The team at Manbenham have been raising awareness about and money for Alzheimer's Society, and senior private client lawyer Patrick Swanee also volunteers for the charity as a dementia ambassador.
One of the key parts in the information session that I talk about is negative words attached to the word dementia, and most people say it's old people, it's losing your mind, it's forgetfulness, rather than, well, you can still contribute to society. There's still more to the person than the disease, that you can still contribute and live a full life. But what that person needs is help and understanding, really adaptations at that time as well, to help them. Just as any person with any disability, it is if you highlight the disability of that person and all of a sudden say, you can't possibly do this because you have such and such a disability, then it actually increases their disability then. So I got personally involved when a relative of mine was diagnosed with dementia, and I just wanted to help out in any way that I could, and then ended up really enjoying it more than anything. And it ended up, I was happy to volunteer, I was happy to do the talks, and happy to share a bit of knowledge with other people at the same time. And it also, from my own personal point of view in advising my clients as a lawyer, it's really helped them because I'm able to give a slightly more of an insight into additional planning and help that they can get rather than just the normal lawyer's approach.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
The Isle of Man schools will soon be subject to new Ofsted adapted guidelines as part of an overhaul of the review system. For the past 18 months, the government and educators have been involved in discussions on how to best drive continual improvement in classrooms without subjecting them to Ofsted inspectors or collating league tables. Here's Christian Jones.
From January, schools will follow new guidelines which are effectively an adapted version of the UK's inspection requirements, with independent validators carrying out reviews in July. Critics have previously called for more data to be made available in the form of league tables, but it seems despite this new framework being put in place, the department remains against the idea of compiling league tables, saying it doesn't effectively measure success in a school. Commenting on suggestions of using education as a way of attracting more people to the island, researcher David Watts thinks it might be a struggle without the data.
You just can't get that here. And if parents, say, doing their research from the UK, have got to go through 32 primary school websites, 5 secondary school websites, the desk website, they can't submit freedom information requests because they're not Isle of Man residents. And because we don't even have really sophisticated metrics that are comparable with the UK, we only measure the number of pupils that get, for example, 5 GCSEs at A star to C, including English and Maths. That's meant to be our gold standard. To many parents, it should be the bare minimum, I would suggest. It's a very difficult job, and I think if I was relocating here now, there's no way I would consider the Isle of Man based on an educational point of view. Isle of Man, it does struggle academically, in my opinion, and I really do wish the desk would be open and transparent with parents and enable, I think, parents, anyone who wants to move here or anyone who lives here, a parent, should have a one-stop portal where they can go and compare school A against school B, because don't forget, there's a postcode catchment area system here. All we get is the brochures from the schools, and the quality of the school websites is so variable. If you're wanting to sell the island, you've got to have somewhere where potential relocators can access that information.
Manx Utilities have submitted a planning application for a new sewage treatment works in Peel. The details from Lewis Foster.
It's the latest step in plans to stop untreated sewage being pumped out to sea in the Western Bay once and for all. In an update, the authority says the application documents have been finalised finalised and were submitted on the 30th of November. They were due to be submitted earlier in the month, with Peel commissioners saying they were disappointed after delays. The new proposed site is situated in fields close to the Heritage Trail and adjacent to Peel Power Station. Plans went on display in August. It says the submission is now undergoing final checks by the planning department before they make them available for public access. The application includes a comprehensive environmental impact assessment, flood risk assessment, a statement of community involvement and a road safety audit report, amongst others, it says. Glenn Faber and Peel MHK Kate Lord Brennan reacted to the update, saying, "Finally, a planning application has been submitted. The agreement to purchase land is subject to planning permission being received, and pre-application discussions with key parties have been going on for a while." A Manx Utilities representative has previously told Manx Radio that they hope to have spades in the ground on the site in 2024. Construction is expected to take around 18 months to 2 years from that point.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Christian Jones, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Marilyn Crellin's here with Shaq Lay, the Manx language programme. Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley. 6:30, A Little Light Music with Morris tonight at 9, and I'll be back tomorrow at 5:30.
WINT. Happy Christmas from Manx Radio.